Hi, we just wanted to get together today and give you some general feedback that we've been seeing at the AUDL tournaments. And we just want to start with three kind of main pieces of advice based on things that we're seeing. So one thing that I see a lot is that people try to go for a lot of things in their final rebuttals. As the negative, they might be going for incarceration. They're going to talk about federalism too, and it kind of gets really chaotic. And on the AF, it's just hard. They're trying to answer all these things, and they're also trying to get every argument that might have been said in cross-ex. But instead, we're going to learn how to narrow down and try to just pick our best arguments and try to go for them later. So later on in your rebuttals, you want to pick strategically what's best for you. That might mean an argument that you're really comfortable with and know very well. And maybe the other team has completely not responded to one argument, and that might sway your decision in a particular round. But mostly you want to go with what arguments you know the best and you know are strong against the affirmative. For the negative, I would pick just one argument in that final rebuttal. So if you want to talk about ecarceration, make sure you explain why ecarceration would make the AF worse. Or if you want to talk about federalism, you would have to talk about each part of the disad and really tell the story of the disad, and then try to explain that as a reason that the AF is bad. And then when you're affirmative, you want to pick the best arguments against the disad or whatever off-case position they're going for. So if they're debating against federalism, maybe you want to prioritize arguments about the link or internal link instead of having to argue that, hey, so the impact for federalism is warming causes extinction, and you don't want to be stuck saying warming doesn't cause extinction. Instead, you might want to be stuck saying, hey, the plan doesn't really take away too much power from the states, and that would be debating the link level. So that's an example of picking a better argument in the 2AR. The next major piece of advice is knowing your evidence and how it all fits together. So on the affirmative side, this would mean what does your plan do and how it solves your impacts. A lot of the times when I'm judging debates and when I see cross-ex, you can tell that maybe someone doesn't know like the exact version of their plan so well. The other team might ask about, hey, like they'll ask something about financial incentives, and there won't be any like reasoning on why do financial incentives solve. So really going through your evidence and being like, hey, financial incentives, states really want that money and that they will go for that money because they have done in the past, and that they've done that in the 94 bill in the past. That's something that your evidence says that, hey, that's the reason that your plan will work. And just being able to know that and then use that in the debate or in cross-ex is really important. And on the neg side, similar, but for the disadvantage or whichever off-case position you're reading if you're in varsity. And the plan, this would mean like uniqueness, what is happening now. And in the federalism disad, for example, that would mean the states have a lot of power now in criminal justice policy and in warming. So in climate policy rather. So that's just like knowing each of those parts and how it all fits together as a story. That's what you would want to do on the negative side. And lastly, we want to focus on organization. A lot of the times in rebuttals, people will talk about federalism for a little while, or they'll talk about the disadvantage for a little while, or they'll talk about ecarceration, the other disadvantage, or they'll talk about then they'll talk about their AF, and there's no real structure. They'll just be thinking about whatever argument is kind of in their head. But a really good way to make your arguments even better by making them more clear and understandable is organization. So one thing that can really help with that is grouping arguments and kind of labeling where you're going, which is called signposting. So this would mean like, hey, I'm going to the federalism disad now. And then all the arguments related to the federalism disad, I would put right there. When you are giving in a rebuttal, there's a general structure which you can follow to overall structure your rebuttal to make your argument strong. So first, you would want to start with impact calculus. This is the Mr. T, if any of you all know that: magnitude, risk, and time frame. And basically, using those metrics, you want to compare your impact versus theirs. Is like a long-term climate change impact more important, or this present day mass incarceration, which may affect less people than climate change, which is extinction? So it's like different ways that you can compare them. You want to do that first, because that means that even if they win all of their arguments about their impact being true, you have already done comparison on which one is more important. So hopefully you can still win. And then you want to do your main position. So if you're on the affirmative, this would mean your advantage, like poverty or racism that you're trying to solve. Or it would mean that if you're on negative side, it would mean your disadvantage or your counter plan or whatever you're trying to going for, whatever you're going for there. And you would want to start with that because you would want to win your reason to win first. And that may mean that you want to prove that the app is bad if you're negative, you want to prove that the app is good. And then you want to go on to answering their position. So you want to go with your affirmative, you want to go to your app first and then to answer the negative position. And when you're negative, you want to go to your disadvantage first and then answer the app. And that's how you would structure the rebuttal. So hopefully these tips will help you improve your speeches. And if you implement them, I guarantee that you'll be getting some more wins and some higher speaker points.